friends and colleagues from around the world. Today we have our first session of the webinars marathon with a very famous doctor and very much loved doctor from the U.S. And he has dedicated his life to this profession. Dr. Williams, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here, Keno. Thank you so much.
So let me give them a little bit of a background to our audience as to where, who, what, and when. Dr. Williams runs not only a podcast, but is also in private practice and has written books, has been involved in countless organizations, and has played a key role in many different circles. The simple credentials go that Dr. Bill Williams found Solstice Dental Advisors and the 10K a Day Dentist podcast. We thought that would be a really good idea to bring to our colleagues from around the world on how to maximize the daily, not only production, but efficiency and efficacy. He is a director of the $5 million mastermind where dentists learn to be $10,000 a day producers and how to market and manage multi-million-dollar practices. Over 45 years in practice, he has been a noted international speaker, business coach, #1 best-selling author, and clinician, and still maintains a thriving private practice in Suwanee, Georgia. Correct?
That's right.
Very good. He's a master of both AGD and ICCMO, was a Small Business Person of the Year in 2005, and received the Ron Lamb Award from the Christian Dental Society as the Outstanding Missions Dentist in North America in 2007. He's a certified Gorilla Marketing Instructor and a certified in Biodent's Ultra Tooth Implant System. Most recently, he has taught about Ogma Bone Appetite with our friend Dr. Amos Yahav, who will recently presented, and Redox Signaling in Dentistry for Wisdom Dental Study Club on the Smiles at Sea cruise in Havana, Cuba at the annual ICCMO conference in Kansas City, and to medical physicians and to dentists in Da Nang and Hanoi, Vietnam. Welcome. What an amazing career he has had. Let's go ahead and see if we can get Bill back in. 1 minute, guys. All right, Doctor. Thank you so much. I just got done through your introduction.
Yeah, I got knocked off the air there for a second.
There is some positives of being able to reach hundreds of thousands of dentist colleagues around the world, but one negative is always the technological aspect of things. I do have your presentation in the stream now. Thank you so much. So a few words, Dr. Williams. What is your motivation of 45 years helping dentists?
Well, I got started early with some success, and I said, this is fun to teach dentists. And so I started teaching in 1981 after we had a study club going for about 4 or 5 years. And I wanted to share what I learned from other dentists, and I wanted to share with my friends and colleagues. As an early dentist, I felt like I should travel and start to meet people from all over the world. So my first international lecture was in Toronto, Canada in 1981. And so found ways to do that consistently, as part of the ICMO, International College of Craniomandibular Orthopedics. I got to lecture in Milan, Italy, Osaka, Japan, Calgary, Canada. So that was fun during the 1980s. And I continued during the 90s and into the 2000s teaching. And lately, as I get toward the end of my practice career, being 45 years into this, I seem to be getting more back into the lecture thing again. So it's fun to give back. That's my main thing.
That's wonderful. You have helped thousands and thousands of doctors. You have these small mastermind groups that you have talked about in the past. I think it's a wonderful idea to get small groups of people to brainstorm on how to improve their businesses, their lives, their personal lives, and just become better human beings and clinicians. So, how's that going for you? The 5,000, the 5 million.
We're doing very good with it. I've done a version of it for 10 years now. 5 of the last 5 have been live in my home here in Suwanee, Georgia. I had it online for about 5 years before that. It's a real fun thing. I'm transitioning it now to my sons to work with it and run it, and that's even more of a joy to make it a family project. And they're so smart. Those 2 guys that I work with, my sons. So we're having a ball. The doctors that go through the program are loving it. They grow tremendously, and they all become 10K a day dentists, of course.
10K a day dentist. I always thought that was a brilliant idea, and it's always nice when you provide services for patients and you do a good job and you care for people, and then you end up with a nice day in the numbers. It's always a pleasant drive home, and you know that the bills are going to be paid, and you're going to be able to stash something away for retirement and all those good things, correct?
Correct. Everybody likes to have a profit they can take home to mama.
That's right. So let's talk about that. Doctor, with that said, an introduction, I'd like to switch over to your presentation, and we're going to go ahead and go out of here. And we're going to get started with your...
Yeah, I've got it up on my screen. Are you seeing it?
Yes. So now you're going to switch you over to this way. And you are on, Doctor. Please take it from here.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Welcome to early morning in Atlanta, Georgia. That's my hometown where I practice. Been here for 45 years total. And I'm going to have a topic today that's my favorite, really. It's the $10,000 a day topic, how to build consistency into your productivity. We want everybody to be able to do this on a regular basis so that it takes the stress away from the practice of dentistry. And we've had enough stress, right, in the last couple of months. We couldn't get out and do our thing. So what we're going to do is show you how to hit the target regularly. And I've got some tips and secrets that I'll lay out on you in the few minutes we've got together. Omar Reed was my mentor. He has a high place in my heart. I went out to see him 5 times, for instance, in 1986, 7, right in there, and sat at his feet and listened. And he showed me that you could increase your practice by doing certain things, taking actions. And so I like to teach other dentists to do what I learned from Omar and others. The Godfather group that you showed, that was excellent. Those guys are all mentors of mine too. So 100,000 increase next year would be possible if you like it. We can show you how to do that. 200, 300. A lot of people go up 500,000 learning the tips and techniques that we talk about in the 5M mastermind and the 10K a day dentist techniques. These things are basically learnable, teachable, prescribable. These things aren't luck. They are not something that just happens in some locales. So what I wanted to do is kind of follow these 9 dramatically simple things that can make you have an increase in your profits. A lot of people in dental education try to get way into the esoteric and they go deep into technical things. So I used to do that. I used to teach TMJ, orthodontics, neuromuscular dentistry was my thing. I teach orthodontics some, but I mostly teach now technically implants. But when you really get down to it, it's not the technical stuff that's going to make you wealthy. It's the understanding of how to interact with people. And so we pretty much specialize in the people business. And I kind of developed this concept. And the reason I developed it was because I had spent 15 years looking at my numbers and said, okay, I know what I'm doing every day. And it was easily 2005 when I realized I was doing 10,000 a day personally in my practice. And that was a milestone because we had set the goal to reach that number. And Since that time, we've never gone below that, daily average, not every day, of course, but some days it's 20, some days it's 5, but the average is 10 a day that we average for 15 years. And so when it came time for me to give my first lecture live in my mastermind, I wanted to come up with a new lecture that meant something to the people to transfer the knowledge I had to them. And I sat down and wrote down 50 things that I do, and I divided them up into a group of things, and they came down to these things right here. And so I'm going to lecture on a few of these today. You need to spend your time, your energy, and your talents doing the thing that you do best as doctors, and that's to love and heal patients. Everything else you can delegate, everything else you can have somebody else do. When you don't have to do it yourself, you can spend your time more wisely and you can focus better. So here we go with the first one. And so that you could pass the exam that we put together to get your CE credits for this course, this mini course, the answers are in gray. So you might take that as a tip if you're watching for the 5 questions you're going to get asked. So the gray answers are most likely the right answers. If your facility has good curb appeal, it sets you apart. People will not pass you by. If your facility has a consultation room that can be used by your team on a consistent basis for 8 hours a day, you've got a benefit that others might not have. So you must have a consultation room separate from treatment rooms. But I like something that's brand new and different that most people do not have. You don't tend to have these built into the normal dental facility when they do the blueprints. But I have an interview room, and I learned this, 30 years ago, part of learning what I was doing with the Solstice Research Group and Omar Reed, my friends. We had an interview room put together so that we could interview new patients. You could use it for other things too along the way. The number of operatories you have does have something to do also with the ability to produce. In my mind, I like to work out of 3 operatories with a 4th overflow. So that's just my personal style. I know you can do it with less. I know you can do it with more. If you're talking about staffing, I really like to work closely with cross-trained team members so that I don't have to look for that one assistant who can do the one thing that I need her to do in that room. So everybody's cross-trained, even the front desk people are cross-trained to come back and do surgery, to do orthodontics. That's the ideal situation. You don't have to be handcuffed and limited by what people know. You basically can fulfill a need when a patient needs it. I like the new patient treatment coordinator, somebody who's in charge of the new patient, because that's a skill, and that's a communication skill particularly. So I want somebody who's going to present well, who's going to not have a trouble with money. People that have trouble with money personally should not be in the treatment coordinator consultation position, because they can't be free mentally to project what's best for the patient. They're always thinking about money because they have a personal situation. So a new patient coordinator has multiple job description things. Now, in a practice, cross-training means you have to have several people do the job of that new patient coordinator. But the primary specialist in the office should be the one who is doing it day in and day out. I like to have my consults done by my new patient coordinator or the office manager. Sometimes it's the same person. You want a high caliber person doing consults that can understand from the front to the back. I love the fact that if they've done dentistry as a dental assistant, they'll understand it even better. So I always like to promote people from the dental assistant position up into the new patient coordinator when possible. I like to work with 2 dental assistants per dentist, and maybe 3 if you've got a very busy practice. So there are certain things. I have some numbers and KPIs that we talk about. $50,000 production per dental assistant is about what I would say. Up to 50, you need 1, 100, you need 2, 150, you need 3. So those are some of the things production-wise in a month that I would go by for my own personal needs. Fee schedule. don't try to be the cheapest guy in town if you want to win the game. You know, work harder to be smarter and do better than your peers in other areas, but don't try to be the low cost leader in town. So I always tried to be the highest guy or near the top in our area because I could always market better. I had a better sense about myself to be the expert rather than to be the low guy. That's just not my style, to be the lowest cost dentist in town. We practiced 35 years with no PPOs at all, no plans. I sold the practice about 7 years ago, and I don't own it anymore. At age 70, I didn't need to own a practice, right? So now I work for the people that I sold it to, and they brought in some PPO plans, and I work with them just the same. So it doesn't matter. And I'm actually producing a lot more now than I was then per day. So I'll tell you right off the bat, PPO plans, you can make it, but it just makes you have to work a little harder. Maximize your coding and your insurance. You know, there's a lot of things you can do that make it smart, the way you code and use insurance. So be sure you take the courses and classes that people like Rose Neerman and others teach, so that you get the ideal match between what you're doing, you know, the medical insurance benefits, all that. But the main thing, if you're going to be a 10K a day dentist, is you got to have credit plans and creative financing. Everybody that comes in the door is not going to be able to afford to lay out the cash. And if your team is very good and you have high use of the credit plans and creative financing, you'll do a lot more dentistry. And sometimes you have to just be smart and go with the flow. Do what people can afford. Do what people value at that time. And so it's not just about the big cases. It's about all the small cases that add up. But one of the big things that's always helped us is we've had a lot of people financed, and it's worked well for us to be very busy all the time. Marketing wise, the MVP of your marketing is always the sign on the road. I wrote a chapter in my book, Marketing the $1 Million Practice, that the best investment you could ever make in marketing, bar none, is the sign on the road that's excellent. And you need to maximize its effectiveness and efficiency by making it big and lit and visible. It's cheap because once you buy it, you don't ever have to pay for it again. And that's why the ROI is so good. And we get tons and tons of new patients because of our sign on the road. And you have to pick your location. You have to pick where you are. And if you're not in a good location, then you're really sabotaging.
Ladies and gentlemen, we lost him again. Let me tune him back in. Just 1 minute, please.
We're trying to.
Yeah, sorry, dog. I lost you there on that last slide. Just exciting presentation. I was getting really into it. Yeah, let's see if we can leave off from a slide you finished on. Let me get you back on the screen. There.
How's that?
Go. All right. Let me get this back to. There we go.
All right. So we got to go into.
Try that. Doc, can you hear me?
Twice.
Your presentation is up, but it's blurry. for some odd reason.
Can you see that one now?
Yes. Are you? Let me. It's really blurry. The presentation is really blurry. Yeah.
Can you see that screen?
Not yet. I don't think you're in the presentation screen. This is your Be Live screen. I would stop sharing first.
How are we doing now? Looking better?
Doing great. I'm going to take this live again. There we go. Perfect. You could kindly pick up from the last slide. We would really appreciate it.
How are we doing now?
Great. Good to go.
Are we getting good there?
It's perfect.
How's it going, Kenna?
Lovely. Dealing with the good morning technologies. You're in your presentation is good. Let's go ahead and you can go ahead and proceed.
We looking good there?
Yes.
How are we doing so far?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Just no, don't leave. Don't leave.
Looking for.
You left us again.
Yeah, I'm looking for you.
I'm here. You left us again on the presentation. It was up and working just fine.
Yeah, how's that look? This is back again. Looks like.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna show you.
Right. Yeah, I can go right back into it there. How's this?
Yeah.
We're back.
It's perfect. Yes. Let me go ahead and hide my screen. I'm gonna share you back in this way. All right, here we go. It's perfect, clean, a clean screen right now.
Okay, guys, I'm so sorry we had a tech problem. I don't know. The internet gods aren't with us today, but we are with you. So we're talking about the highly developed social proof and expert status that you want to develop. All you guys that are on these webcasts are experts. You know, you guys are marvelous because you have been trained highly. I see a lot of the presentations and they're related to, you know, some of the high-end dental procedures like implants and bone grafts and high-end cosmetics, and is a pleasure to, you know, work in that area. If you're an expert and if you're showing that social proof across the internet on social media, on your website, you're doing podcast, you're doing a local presentations to the Rotary, the Kiwanis, whatnot, you're going to be very successful. And that's how I built my practice, was doing walkabout. Walkabout is local marketing where you go into businesses, meet people, shake hands, and bump elbows now instead. And then you go into the service clubs and you give a speech on dentistry, you know, give them the the basic level course on implantology or on cosmetic dentistry, what the wow factor that we can do for people. And that's the walkabout. Become the primary guy in your community that everybody thinks about, which is part of the 7 mountains of marketing and part of being the number one dentist that people think about in that circle of influence that you have among the 7 mountains. The next thing you can do is create high-end niche market formulas to the specialty that you like to be known for and do more of. So it could be implants. That's probably the most lucrative one. You could do orthodontics, Invisalign, fixed and removable. You could do high-end neuromuscular full mouth rehabilitations, cosmetics, whatever. So you need a niche formula for every part of your dental expertise, a separate niche formula. And so those things are purchasable. Those things are something that we've done for years, put ourselves out and market specifically to niches, because it's in the niches where the riches reside. Next thing is the new patient experience, that system that we developed 30 years ago with Joe Ellis and Lee Osler and Nick Myers and others at Solstice Research Group. This is something that we employed the video camera early on and the digital photography. Smile design now has come a long way, and we can do the digital smile design. So the new patient experience is what sets us apart. Of all the things that I do, that's the number one thing that I teach my dentists to do, they don't already do, is to have a specifically designed new patient experience where they bring in a new patient and the wow factor is a part of their introduction to the practice, I guess you'd call it. And so we go through a certain series of things, about 50 things you can go through in an exam. And it's not just what's in the operatory and the examination, it's the tour through the office, is a lot of things. But if you schedule people that first before they see the hygienist, and don't even see the hygienist on the first visit, that's number one, the most important thing that we do. Our average case is about $14,000 when we bring in a new patient. And if you don't do the new patient experience, your value of your exam and the purchasing of the patients, they don't spend as much, they don't get time with the doctor as much, and they certainly don't commit to the big dentistry like they will in the hygiene exam as if they would in the doctor exam, the way we do it. So that's one of the points that I always drive home in my 5M mastermind. Now, another thing that came along was we always have a goal to schedule to $10,000 a day. If you don't have a goal, you'll never reach it. You don't just arbitrarily reach 10,000 a day because you think it's a good number and you hope you get there. You have to actually look to schedule it. And so I have a charge to my front desk people. I say, just book me $10,000 a day and I'll be happy. And I won't ever fuss at you. I won't ever say you're not doing your job. No matter what it takes, if you do that, I'll always love you. And I always tell my staff, in the morning meeting, in the huddle, I say, okay, we have 7,000 on the books and we know we can make the rest of it up. We know how we can do that, which we'll talk about in a minute. So it always fills in. It always does more. We tend to schedule whatever we schedule. We have a goal of 10, maybe less, maybe more. So what I would say is set your goal and then work your day to make it hit the goal. That's the key. I always do about 20 to 30% more per day than we book, sometimes even 50% more, just because we work on a couple of systems that we have. I use the ABC 3-chair schedule, which means I like to work out of 3 chairs, and I have a rock, paper, sand type of a ABC column, good stuff, average stuff, finish up stuff that's not productive. So that's kind of a schedule, and 3 assistants to make that work. I always look for ways to fill the gaps in. If I've got openings in the schedule, by the end of the day, there are no holes, there are no gaps, because we fill them in from hygiene, from different places, from people having emergencies, whatever. Now, my mindset is very important, and number one thing among the people that get success with my system is they have a mindset shift. If your mindset's not that you can do it, then you can't. Whatever you think you can, you probably are right. So a complete coordinated full mouth dentistry is what everybody deserves. whether it's one filling because they have one cavity. That's full mouth dentistry if that's all they need. And so we pretty much diagnose everything everybody has on the first visit. And we always tell them everything they have on the first visit, not the first actual visit, but at the consultation, which will actually happen on a different day for 90% of the people. Only people with less than $1,000 worth of dentistry would all do a consult on the same day. I'll always do a consult on a return visit for the most part, if they're local people. If they're coming from another state, then I'll say, okay, I'll figure your treatment plan up right now. We'll do a consult before you go back, if that's important, because we're not going to ask people to come back from another place. So in my mind, everybody on the team can do everything very well. They're really cross-trained well. And I, the doctor, don't have to do everything. That means that if they want to do a consult for me, they'll do it. If they want to change an archwire for me, I'll prescribe it rather than me do it. Things like that. So the Say Yes system and the same-day dentistry system are two things that are both related to everything that's important with building a day. It's not perfect. So if I want a perfect day, I'll plan for it. But if it's not perfect when I get to there at the morning meeting to the office, I'll go, okay, what are we going to do? And so we look for areas to fill in the gaps, and they always get filled in just every day. So you have to have your funnel filled with people that can come in, people that want dentistry. And the way to fill the funnel is have the new patient experience, having people lined up to come see you. That's the key. You've got to have social proof that you're worth the money that you're charging. You've got to have expert status in their minds that you are the one. And you've got to have a creative ability to do what's needed every day to fill in the holes. So we don't always have to upsell people, but that's one of the techniques that I mentioned is you can have a person that's in for a crown and you look around their mouth. In the treatment plan, there's 2 or 3 other crowns that need doing. And it doesn't hurt to ask the patient, would you like to get 2 of them done today instead of 1 so you don't have to make another trip back? Would you like to get 2 done? I'll give you $100 off on the second one or both of them if you'll get them done today, because that saves me some time and it'll save you some time. So you can be creative and create profit for yourself and not have an empty hole, because you can't get your time back. You're not going to be able to recoup lost time, right? So a lot of times I'll get creative and ask a patient to do something special for me, and I'll do something special for them just to get them to fill that empty hole. Now, if I've got a full schedule, I don't need to worry about, giving discounts and things. So we have a whole system of things that we can do that'll help people when we need help. The doctor mindset is that I can do more in less time. I can do more dentistry in less time. I'm always one that I believe I'm faster, more efficient than most people. And when I look at my associates I've had for, 40 something years, I've had 18 associates that I work with. I know how fast dentists work, and I know generally, my speed is higher than most, and you can teach speed. And so in our mastermind, I've taught a few techniques for efficiency and speed, and the guys come back and go, man, I've been a dentist for 25 years and I've never seen anything like that. I'm going to try it. And when they go back and try it, and then they whittle about, 50% off the time it takes to do a crown prep, which is common, they'll come back raving about the technique the next time they're in. And so, I sat and watched Omar Reed do the 90-second crown prep, and I don't do anything like that. Mine takes about 120 seconds. I'm a lot slower than Omar, but basically get it done, get it fast, get it right. And when you do things like that, patients very much appreciate it. And then I'm looking in the operatories going, okay, what can I do to help you? Talking to my hygienist how to fill their schedule. I can pull people out of their schedule, push them over into their hygiene schedule if they need a prophy or something. So we work as a team trying to help each other schedule. That's important. The team mindset's just as important as mine. Full capability of an assistant to do anything is very valuable. I already mentioned that. And another thing I'd like a team to have as a mindset is the fact that they can sell and present dentistry. I don't have to do it. They can do it in the operatory. I've had dental assistants who sold a $20,000 case on a new patient that came in, and I never even talked to them. And they just pulled me over into the room and said, Miss Jones wants to have her teeth done. We've already talked about it, and she's got a wedding coming up in about a month or two. Can we get it done before the wedding? And, the Say Yes program is, I say yes whenever they ask that kind of question. I know they've already sold the situation. They've already explained it. And I say, yes, if everything looks okay health-wise, if we can go that direction and you want to, I'd be glad to do it. We'll move mountains to get people work done if they want it. So the team can lead on these kind of things. I like 100% readiness when the patient arrives in the office. I don't want my staff to be making the patient wait, like insurance is not checked out, like the forms are not filled out. I want everything for the patient done so the patient can go in the operatory. We don't want them to come in and they don't have the right insurance. And so they have the appointment, but they can't come to us because we don't seem to be on their insurance plan. That's not a conversation to have if you've already scheduled treatment. The next thing is the 100% readiness when the doctor arrives in the operatory. That's even more important because I don't want to wait. I don't want to have to say, okay, did you get your form signed yet? Do you have the room set up properly? Do you even have the anesthetic out? Do you have the hand pieces on with the burrs in them? So these things I want done when I walk in the room. And so that kind of creates a mood that I have been enjoying for the last couple of years, especially with my really 3 ACE assistants. If they are really on their game, that means that they're 100% willing to do what I need them to do, what the patient needs them to do, and they're ready and they're willing, then when both those two things happen, then we have what's called 100% happiness. Everybody's happy and there's no upset in the office. And if you could have 20, 30 patients a day, that's about how many people go through my office in my hygiene and personal operatories. 30 a day is about average, 20, 30. If every procedure is perfectly done and everybody's willing and able and ready, and I'm pretty happy at the end of the day. I don't have upset over something that didn't get done right. And if you could string that together day after day, that's a perfect day. That's a 10K day in your mind of mental happiness. And it's not just money, it's happiness factor, it's emotional stability and emotional positivity. So you don't have to fuss at your staff about what they didn't do. It sets them off in a bad mood, right? And so if we make it real important that everything is ready when you get ready to work, it's great. So the Say Yes program we already talked about, that's a whole lecture I give for an hour that talks about how to meet the patient where they are and give them what they want so that it really serves them well. The doctors don't say no, the staff don't say no. Whatever the patient wants, they pretty much can get within reason. And we are focused on service, and we're focused in the team on hitting the goal. And so if you want to have a team that's really going to excel, have them have a goal personally. Every team member has a personal goal, and then let them go. Show them how to do it, give them the resources. I always did KPI, where key performance indicators, where every single staff member had 2 or 3 KPI to meet, and they were done daily, weekly, or monthly, quarterly. And we had department goals, KPI, and we had team goals. And each doctor had their own goals. So everybody that's working with the KPI systems will do far better than those who don't have systems. Far better. Advanced planning is always important, that you get things done because you planned them. You know what you're going to do before you walk in the room. So you never walk in blind. Talk a lot about capability of dentists and the fact that being a decathlon dentistry is very important if you want to be a productive dentist. You only have to have half as many new patients if you can do everything that the patient needs. You don't have to refer them out to somebody else to finish the case. And so that's an important part of being productive, is not to have to scramble to find new patients all the time. If you've got people that need everything in the mouth, you could do it yourself. And so I've always studied hard to be good and learn more. And I always kind of said, if you can do 5 things, you can do a 10K a day practice, but you got to have, 100 patients. if you can do 7 things really well, you can probably, do it. But if you have 10 disciplines under your belt, you know all the things that can be done in dentistry, and that's pretty much 10 disciplines with a couple of subspecialty things you could add in, like, sedation or neuromuscular laser techniques. Things like that will allow you to move up to be more productive because you can do. And that's a decathlon dentistry. 10 different disciplines, one dentist doing it all. Card systems are something I use. To multitask, you've got to be able to remember what's going on in the next room. And so I have a card system that lets me know what's going to happen in the next room before I go in there. And they lay it on the counter behind me. So when I'm finishing up in one area, I'll pick the card up and walk down the hall reading the card, and I don't have to talk to anybody, listen to anybody. It's basically on the card. And that's just a system we developed. It's very useful. And if you got that kind of process of communication, things can flow, and you don't lose things in the communication translation. Sedation dentistry is good. You can multitask in a different way with sedation. Do a lot more dentistry on fearful patients, and that opens up a whole nother door of people that want to be asleep, want to be sedated. If you can't do sedation, you can't do that much in the implant world. And so you do need oral conscious sedation minimally. IV sedation is better. And so, I never went for the IV sedation, trained on it, but never finished. So what I did was I hired 2 GPR graduates that were IV trained. And so we have it in our office as a group, but I don't do it myself. I just do the oral conscious sedation, and I still do well, and don't worry about needing to be an IV guy, but it is better to be IV. And one of the things really that's important about multitasking is you have to have nerves of steel. This is a low-hanging fruit for some dentists, and others it's impossible. If you can't stand having 2 patients in the chair at one time, then you're going to have a harder time multitasking between them. Then you're going to have a hard time being a 10 KLA dentist, in my mind, because you got to have somebody over there getting numb while you're over here drilling. And you've got to have some dental assistant doing a delegated procedure over there while you're doing, extracting a tooth. So there's things you can do, and there's things you can't let anybody else do. And if you can't stand having 2 people in the chair at one time, and I know there are some dentists that can't stand it, they just don't want people to feel like they're waiting on them, then you might be one that would have to work a little slower. Talk about doctor efficiency. Doctors do not have to do all things like talking to patients, doing all the education, doing all the selling, doing any of the consults. So to me, consultation is something that's totally delegatable. Now, I'll always be available for a consult, but I never get called in. My staff does all the consults. They have for 30 years, and I don't do consults. And I average, 16,000 a day right now for the last 5 years, probably 13 to 16,000 per day average production. And if I had to talk to 30 patients, new patients a month, or 50 new patients a month, there's no way that I could produce like I do, because I'd be talking all the time. If the handpiece is not twirling, or you're not putting in implants, checking the ortho patients, you're not doing that. You're not making the income. Talking is good. People can tell you that that's productive, but it's not. If it's delegatable, then they can do it. And I believe in full mouth dentistry. If the patient wants it all in one day, that's going to happen. We have the capability to do that. And we talk about full, half, quads. Try not to do singles ever, if we can help it. But sometimes that's all they want, and that's what we do. So I do a lot of singles. Don't want to. Multiple disciplines per appointment is important. If you could do endo, crowns, fillings all in one appointment, you're better off. For some reason, dentists think, like dental school, I went to the restorative department, I just do fillings. I went to the endo department, I just did endo. So they think you can't mix them up, but really that's old school thinking. Plan cases in advance. Every case is well planned in advance. Everybody knows what's coming before we start. Patients especially, there's no surprises. That way they don't leave our practice. If you tell them everything, a lot of doctors expect that they will lose their patients because they'll be overwhelmed. Well, that's just your lack of confidence if that's what you're doing. We don't stress them out to do it all at once. We just tell them all at once that this is the 5-year plan. It may take 5 days, may take 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years, may take 10 years. But it is a plan, and this is what's going to get your mouth healthy so that once it's healthy, it stays that way for the next 20 years, 30 years. So they all get the idea that their mindset is that we're going to fix them, that they're going to get done, and it's just going to be a matter of when and how. Can they afford it now, or will they have to do it over time? That's the mindset that we have. And we want the patients to have the same mindset of be comfortable, get it done, and when it's time, it's time. We want to eliminate the coffee breaks. I'm not interested in being a lazy dentist. I'm very interested in being a, what do you call it? A dentist that's on vacation. So I want to work hard when I'm working, and I want to relax well when I'm relaxing. So spend time with my grandkids and do those things. But when I'm working, I'm not taking breaks. Decide to go and step on the pedal. This is the number one thing that you can do to reduce the stress factor in your practice is to work faster and make the patient feel like, they're the number one thing. A lot of people hem and haw when they're asked a question, and the patients don't have trust and don't have belief when you hem and haw. When you start to cut a tooth, you need to know where you're going to end up before you start. And so I see the finished product in my mind before I start, and I just cut away everything that's not supposed to be there. And like Michelangelo said, David's in that rock somewhere. I'm going to just get him out. And that's how I look at a tooth. I'm going to cut away everything that's not David. And so when I finish, it's just been like 2 minutes and I'm done on any prep of any tooth for anything. So you just get rid of what's not supposed to be there, and you just step on the pedal and go. And I've heard so many patients say to me, how'd you do that? How'd you get done so fast? Because they're used to dentists that piddle. They look, they piddle. They look, they whittle, they piddle. That can go away if you put your mind to it. So choose to do more in less time. Here's my schedule if you just want to see what it looks like. I've got a morning huddle from a group of dentists, assistants and hygienist and front desk person. And I don't have a big full office staff meeting of 20, 25 people. It's just my little group. We have our 3 columns. We line up the good stuff on one column, okay stuff and new patients. And we put them in and it works. And we got 2 hours for the new patients, as you can tell, but I'm not in there, but 20 minutes, maybe 30 at the most. We schedule doctor, assistant, and doctor time, by 10-minute appointments, schedule our $10,000 a day goal. We have $5,000 per assistant as an average, and that's just some industry standards that I like to promote. You can get assistants to do a lot of good stuff that will support you. Afternoon, same thing, schedule. If it's open, we'll save right before lunch and right before closing time for their emergencies. If they don't fill in, okay, we go home. If they do fill in, we're glad to finish up. But basically, with Say Yes and same-day dentistry, we're always full to the last minute. But I never work overtime. That's the thing. I don't work through lunch, and I don't work over 5. It's almost a given that we're always on time. We shift over people from hygiene to our own, and we like I say, we upsell when people would like to, if we have time. Somebody once asked me, how much do you do in each of these areas? So I kind of studied for a whole year how much work I did and kind of divided up the percentages based on the ADA codes. And crowns and fillings, 31% of what I do. I'm a general restorative dentist for the most part. I do a little bit of ortho, a little bit of implants. Fixed crown and bridge means anything that's more than a single unit. Do a lot of full mouth reconstruction. So sometimes those will involve bridges and some all on 4s. Diagnostics, oral surgery, endo. Removable, not too much of that. TMJ, I do a lot of TMJ, but not very much do I charge for it. So most of the crown and bridge that we do is why the TMJ is still important, because we do a lot of full mouth reconstructions based on TMJ. And perio, of course, with the perio laser, We do a lot of that, but it doesn't have that much fees that I built into it. So most of the perio is done in the hygiene department. In our KPI systems, we measure everything. We know right where we are. And then some people say, you know, consistency is one of the most important things is you can do. And so I'm just showing this to show the consistency of 9 days. The previous month, I only work about 8 or 9 days a month now. At age 70, it's not necessary to kill it. You know, I've done it for 44 years, 45 years. So 14,000 average for a whole month. And then the 4 days prior to this day, that was 10 day, was a 13 average. So these are the kind of things you look for, is to figure out what you can do every day to be consistent. And that's why if you don't measure it, it won't get done. So that's a very important key to me, is to learn how to build it once and then repeat that over and over again. Your good days can be strung in a series once you put the principles in place. And we're finishing up here, and I'll talk about the big picture is you have to combine the critical centers of influence, things that will change your mindset to believe you can do it. And so, you know, I've always taught in the mastermind that the doctor's mindset is the focus. I've always taught in the online academy, which is an online program that goes with the mastermind or separate. The business assistant, the dental assistant, the dental hygiene team have to have their mindset focus matching the doctors. And so it's a companion program that goes with the overall 5M mastermind, is the doctors have to have their team brought along the same way. And so if you don't have mindset match, things don't work. Social growth factor, you know, you've got marketing and things that you got to bring your patients into the same mindset. And so we have ways to alter the mindset of patients by giving them social media insights into our practice. This huge part of our practice building is having the patients understand our mindset. You know, I wrote a couple of books that were #1 bestsellers on Amazon, the Marketing the $1 Million Practice and the $10,000 a Day Dentist. Those were basically how I grew my practice to 0 to 5 million in 10 years for the first book, and how to do the perfect day in the second book, which is kind of like the topic of this lecture right here. What I'm doing now is working with my sons, and Tyler's got great team focused programs with what's called Practice Performer. And so I've enjoyed, you know, passing the baton to my kids, and they're just great. The books that we wrote, I used that book, Smile 360, that I co-wrote with 2 other dentists to actually do patient education in the office and show our cases in the book. And they're very useful. And if you can create a marketing focus and share it with the community, you know, the 7 mountain concept we talked about, and guerrilla marketing, which is low cost, inexpensive marketing. We have some real good techniques on inexpensive marketing. And when I bring Tyler into the fold, he basically bonds with the teams and the doctors such that they understand what the mindset is to get things right and get things done. And Practice Performer is a virtual summit that we're actually putting together next weekend. So Tyler and I are going to take 2 days to do a virtual summit for 8 doctors only. So it's a individualized coaching for 8 doctors. So I just wanted to mention that as we finish up here, Keanu. This is why I still stay active in dentistry, is so that I can teach others to do what we've done. And I enjoy working with my sons to do it as a team, and nothing better than family and nothing better than the dental profession. It's been an honor to be here with you and all the doctors across the world. And I look forward to meeting every single one of you one day here in Suwanee, Georgia. Thank you so much.
All right, doctor. Thank you for the presentation. We got a little bit of time to do some Q&A. So when you structure your, one of the questions here that I had, when you structure your full day, how does that differentiate between the type of practice that you have, be it a fee-for-service or a mix of insurance or government A-type situation where you're working more with volume to make ends meet? What recommendation would you have in that scenario for 3 different settings?
Well, I don't think it makes any difference at all. as far as what kind of fee schedules or what kind of support you have insurance-wise. I've had in my mastermind, for instance, guys that have $8 to $10 million practices because they're Medicaid practices. And I've had rural Kentucky practices that are highly split between PPOs and Medicaid and a few fee-for-service, and they're all doing well. Of course, we have a lot of what I call the regular dental practices. They're mostly fee-for-service with a few plans. And I have very few people that are just fee-for-service that are in my mastermind. And so none of them come out of the mastermind with a different focus or a different technique. They all maximize what they're doing in their practices. If you're dealing with a lower fee schedule, you just have to be a little more efficient, and you have to use a little bit more smarts to do things. And, you know, I have one practice up there in Maryland area that's doing about $8 million a year, and they maximize the use of a dental associates, for instance. So it definitely depends on what your mindset is, not your income structure.
I see. So your mindset, not your income structure.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. So on a $10,000 day, you're jumping around from chair to chair. If you don't have a big case, if you're not doing 10 crowns, or if you're not doing a bunch of implants or ortho or what have you, the high price tickets. So how do you mitigate the rapport that you want to establish with patients at the same time while you're jumping around the chairs versus the numbers that you're keeping up behind in the back of your mind because you're running a business? How do you mitigate that? How do you keep a good rapport? Because patients, I presume, realize that you're jumping around, coming in, numbing them, going to the next room.
They don't even know. I mean, if your staff is good, your dental assistants are good, your hygienists are good, they don't know I'm not in the room because they're an extension of me. We make such a good connection in the new patient experience that they understand who we are and what we are. And most of the people are truly, they're easy to work with. They don't think you're jumping around. For the most part, we spend all the time we need with the patient. And bedside manner, chairside manner is totally appropriate to get into communication with the patient. You know, we spend a lot of time talking to the patient, but not in the education sense, but in meeting them where they are, understanding them. And I really enjoy when I hear my dental assistant talking to the patient and bonding with them, because the patients don't seem to be aware that the time's going by when they're talking about things. So I want the dental assistant involved in the patient as I'm not in the room. When I'm in the room, I don't know if it's unique, but I have a way of just connecting with the people quickly and making them feel personally like I'm there with them. And we start to work and get done quickly. If I could talk for 2 minutes, drill for 4 minutes, and have them out in another 10 minutes, that would be pretty special, wouldn't it? People like that. And then you could meet them in the hallway and talk as they walk down the hall. Things like that are the way we do it. And people don't feel in our practice that they're being rushed and pushed. It's just a good system because they know they're heard. They know that they're cared for, and it's all based on not a number, they're a person.
Excellent. So, Doc, what do you think the future of dentistry will look like for us in terms of the business aspects of things, considering all of the insurance companies and the corporations and the supplies companies and big pharma and all of our good friends that have their hands in our operatories and our pockets?
It takes a good businessman to be up on what's going on. You can overcome most all of that with communication and personal touch with the patient. I thought you were going to get into what do we do with the in the midst of the corona slowdown and all the PPE issues that come up, and can't move as fast. That's been on my mind a bit, as far as what are we going to do to get back into the normal routines. The rhythm and the routine for a busy practice are slowed down a bit by what's going on. But I think that'll pass, and the corona thing will become like the flu thing. Flu doesn't slow us down. You just don't appoint people with flu, and I'm hoping that we'll be fine with an upgrade of PPE, but not to the level of a OR. I'm not worried about corporations. I'm not worried about insurance, because people want to be healed. People want to be healthy, and I'm promoting their health. I don't promote them using just their insurance and then quitting till the next year. So those things are important. That's kind of the way it is.
Very, very good point. So in the last 4 decades or so, our industry has quite changed. We hear about it in groups. We hear it about from our colleagues. Nobody knows what to do about it. Organized dentistry, and a lot of times, has let us down. So it's going to take more and more peer-to-peer efforts and information exchange between people like yourself and the audience to really get a hold of our future and our autonomy before we end up like the physicians and the optometrists and become factory-type workers. But I thank you for all the knowledge that you bring to the table for dentistry and what you do, and it will be etched in history. And thank you for joining us today, Doctor, and we will be in touch.
Thanks, Kino. We're not like, this is like the Freedom State, your global institute of teaching, your global summit here. We are like not the deep state of dentistry. We are the free state. So I appreciate what you're doing to make it available to the common man, the everyday dentist, those around the world who might not could come here to the U.S. and learn from us. Plus, we get to hear from experts in all countries of the world through your program. So you expand our territory. So thank you. That's a blessing.
Yes, Doctor. There's over 150 doctors currently working on this project in the background between the speakers as well as our social peer group. A big shout out to our approximately 30 doctors that are currently in the background, getting this wealth of knowledge to the most distant places in the world for our colleagues to benefit from. Imagine what impact we can have if we reach 1 million dental professionals who care for hundreds of millions of patients.
Hundreds of millions.
It's a very noble thing. It's free. You get to watch it on the Facebook page in the video section. If people need CE for a licensure, there's a separate process that we have to do with an outsourced company that will regulate all of that. But again, peer-to-peer, and we are well on track to reach our 1 million goal as of this morning, midnight. 455,000 dental professionals have tuned in. 23 days more to go, and we shall seek to reach as many dentists as possible. Thank you for your contribution to the project, Doctor.
Okay, thank you so much. And you guys can reach me at practiceperformers.com/summit. We'd be glad to talk to anybody out there. practiceperformers.com/summit.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.